you do regen, and so your barriers always feels like it's on like 1,000 hit points. Now is a good time to start asking questions. I'm going to call Ryan, and yeah, we'll both go over it. And like Ryan can also get a few thoughts in. If you don't know who Ryan is, he is a guy from Overwatch Central. He's basically become a Reinhardt main, and yeah.
Welcome to Overwatch, Monsilly.
Texas Recon. Hey, welcome. Welcome to the many as well, Texas Recon. Thank you for your support. Did I catch Envy being destroyed? No, I didn't. No, I did not. I want to go watch that though, because like Lunatic High, a fucking good team. I did see like the clip of Miro like jumping out 3 miles to go and punch a Mercy flying in the air.
Yeah, that was Misfits. Both games were really good.
Oh yeah, so
and Lunatic are looking really good.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna go watch that probably after today. Anyway, so questions. You have the chat open, Ryan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Valeta Karlak starts, and I think you have actually tried doing this. Is there a good way to practice Reinhardt? Quick play is very inefficient, lots of snipers and only Lucios for healing. Well, you can practice charges at the very least. I know Ryan tried this.
Yeah, everybody likes the Anabot drill for headshots and stuff like that. What is also good as well, reduce cooldowns completely and just charge at unkillable Anas for like 10 minutes. Gives you a good gauge of what kind of angles you can do, but also bad habits that you tend to do, like sort of jumping and then charging. It's just an extra second or split second for them to get out the way if they see it coming. And it's just really good for sort of warming yourself up and getting used to it. It's muscle memory in that sense. Charging in itself is prone to mistakes. There was a stage where I didn't charge at all, and now I'm charging constantly. And you've got to learn and gain the experience of charging into situations that worked out, charging into situations like charging into that room on Volskaya where you shouldn't. You just shouldn't charge into a room where nobody can help you.
Yes.
You need
I know
to
the one
sort
you
of
mean.
you need to go and just experience stuff like that. It's an experience-based hero, and the more harrowing experiences you have, the more likely you're not to make those mistakes again.
Yeah, so I've drawn a diagram on stream. I'm not sure it's an amazing idea, but the thing with charging as well, like just to focus on charging for a second, is you've got to imagine that Reinhardt has kind of a couple of zones. So first of all, you can have a complete miss where you just don't hit the target. Second, you can have what I call a bump off, where you just bump into the target. And if you think about Reinhardt's model, he's got like 2 big shoulder pads. Just imagine that those are ramps, okay? You want to not get them on the shoulder pads. You want to get them like fucking in the middle of your character as much as possible. Bigger characters, of course, are easier than smaller ones, but just imagine that for some reason, imagining the ramps makes it easier to visualize in my head. So I just imagine that, they're just skidding off the shoulder pads and getting launched sky high. Getting those charges dead center. The best thing with charges, the best advice I can give with charges is as well, like find the corridors, find places like bait people in to try and squeeze past payloads. Dorado, for example. The danger with Dorado, though, when they're like moving through the first choke point, is you will finish your charge in a really bad location. So unless you have a Mei, that's always a risky charge. But if your barrier's low and the enemy team's all cramming in, then it's not too bad an idea because you'll damage everything and usually kill something in the process. Charging is very difficult. Otherwise, practicing Reinhardt in general, like Ryan said, it's very, 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 very experience-based. You just got to get used to situations happening. Quick play will be inefficient, but it's still practice. It still kind of works, but there's no substitute for just going into ranked and playing in ranked.
VOD reviews. People have this sort of thing with watching themselves back, where it's like warming up. You can it's easy for us to say, for you to improve, you need to warm up and do VOD reviews. And it's like, okay, sure, boss, yeah, I'll do that. And very rarely people actually do. Certainly looking back through footage, you tend to do a thing that you guys no doubt have been doing in Twitch when us guys play, and that's backseat and going, oh, if I was in this situation, I would have done that. It can be a bit cringy watching you play and be like, why in God's earth did I do this? I'm an idiot. But that's something that you wouldn't have gained if you didn't look back at yourself. I did see a really good question. Here's a good question from Fiok. If I'm playing as Ryan and Anna unexpectedly nano boosts me, do I drop my shield and leave my team exposed, or try to get value on the nano? Don't try and force it. If you've been nano boosted and there's nobody near you to like attack or do damage to, especially supports, don't just run off and try and find someone. Yeah. It also opens yourself up to be telegraphed that if you get nano boosted, it's like, I'm going to start hitting stuff. Roadhog could hook you.
The enemy Reinhardt will just outshadow. The amount of
Yeah,
times you'll get a nano boost happen, and then the enemy Reinhardt just earth shatters instantly because he expects you're going to drop your barrier.
You've
is
no doubt
huge.
heard me complain playing ranked on this when I get nano boosted and I don't want it, because that's on them.
Yeah.
That's on the Ana. Let the Ana fuck up in that situation. A good Ana will know when to boost a Reinhardt for sustain or trying to take a point. The Volskaya video that me and Josh did is a good example of when you should. Otherwise, just be aware. Because in a situation where a soldier might ult on the enemy team, you've got to keep your shield up, and that ult for them is wasted. But trying to force that play and trying to get kills, especially when you don't need to, you run the risk of other people dying on your watch.
Yes.
So if you get nano boosted and it's in a bad situation, and the Ana's complaining at you that you didn't do anything, you just kept your shield up, they're an idiot.
Yeah.
They're an absolute idiot.
And in general, like if you feel like the Ana is trying to force nano boost on you too much, then don't be afraid to say, just nano boost someone else. I'm not feeling comfortable with it, and if I need it, I will shout for it. One of the best things you can do as an Ana linking up with people is say, like when playing with a Soldier 76, for example, is telling them, if you need the nano boost, call for it and I'll give it you. I usually do this especially with Genjis as well. Like Genji, when you're ready, dash into the air, call for it, and I'll give it you then. I'm not going to just give it to him and then expect he's going to do stuff with it. So yeah, it's one of those things where the Ana can fuck up, and the Ana will fuck up. And sometimes I've nano boosted Reinhardt just so they survive longer, just so they like store points longer as well. And sometimes you can just tell Reinhardt, just this is to keep you alive, and you just inform them afterwards, like that they can keep the barrier up or whatever. But don't stop being Reinhardt just because you got a nano boost. Just walking down the order of questions, by the way.
Yeah.
Songo Tanks 30. Reinhardt charging Diva ult. When to do? Very, 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 very rarely. Very rarely.
When you have no shield.
When you have no shield, and even then, like, just make sure that you are taking it away from the team, because the team is playing around. Like, it's like getting stuck with a pulse bomb. Like, everyone knows, like, the thing to do is just stand still, because everyone knows where the pulse bomb is. If you are the one stuck, stand the fuck still. You are probably already dead. If you start moving around, everyone's moving around where they know it is, and they're moving away from that point where the screen's like giving them a big red exclamation mark. It's the same for Diva ult. Everyone's playing around where the Diva ult is at that point. If you move it, you can fuck people. So very, 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 very rarely. Because it will kill you as well, is the other thing.
Don't try and be elaborate as Reinhardt ever.
Yeah.
Don't try and...
It makes for a great clip. It makes for an amazing clip, and you're being Superman, and sometimes it really pays off, but half the time the Reinhardt charges an ult that everyone's already safe from. Everyone's already run away from it and is completely safe, and you could have run away from it too, and then they just end up dying for no reason. And the amount of times I've seen that is it's too many. What would you do as a Reinhardt when the enemy has a good Widow and the enemy team does win the barrier war? Cry, I think is a good answer, because if they have a good Widow and they're winning the barrier war, what the fuck is hitting your barrier? Is like my question. Like, why isn't your team winning the barrier war? They could be just they're taking better initiative, or the Widow is just absolutely killing everyone. The thing to do in that instance is either you say, guys, like, Reinhardt is not working, I'm going to swap to Winston and go sit on her face, or you tell someone else to swap to Winston and go sit on her face. Just eliminate the Widowmaker, basically, and get rid of that.
Yeah.
That's sort of
one thing that I did notice from the gameplay that we were watching when it comes to Shield Wars is how what's the name of the guy? Hammer Fight had his shield up just when he didn't need to.
Yeah, that's
and
what I commented
winning the
on.
fight isn't so much about the damage that is put onto it. That's an important aspect, sure, but leaving it as late as you possibly can before you go, right, shields up, let's do this.
Let me get a good color for this. Okay, we've got a graph, because I like graphs. This is time. This is damage. We'll just call it the D, okay? Let's say the enemy team does this damage over time, okay? And let's say that your team does, like, way more damage, but they're doing it, like, over a longer period because the enemy team has been shooting at your barrier since time 0. Because your barrier's been up non-stop, while their barrier comes up at time X. Doesn't really matter. Your barrier could die first. Just be, like, the barrier that's been up longer, even though the enemy team does less damage, could die first before the higher damage team, basically. Because the barrier's up for a shorter time, or it's been available for a shorter time, it will last longer, even though your team has better damage output. And when you aren't dropping your barrier, all you're doing is shifting this damage start point further and further and further to the left.
Yeah,
is bad. You don't want that to happen. You want to shift that point more and more to the right. That's how
some damage isn't a bad thing. What is bad is getting hooked and slipped.
Yes,
Sometimes
that's
stunned by McCree. That's where I fuck up the most by being a bit too ballsy by waiting as long as possible, and then I got hooked, and then you're dead. And that is time that the team doesn't have shield at all. Like, you've let them down in aspects.
yeah.
And it's incredibly brave to give Reinhardt footage. That's definitely a thing to go over, because there's so many other aspects there. As a soldier, if you're constantly screwing up, then you're just not putting out the output of damage that you should be. Reinhardt, if you keep screwing up, everybody dies.
Basically, yeah.
It's like a tank in World of Warcraft as well, in that sense. That if you make a mistake and you die, everybody else is going to die shortly afterwards.
Yeah, although that's when you turn around and you go, what the fuck were the healers doing? Like, literally, to quote my WoW writing day, so I played a Frost Knight Death Knight during Ulduar, and I had 70% avoidance while still being very tanky. And sometimes the healers would just go AFK, and I'd like look at the recount, it's like 3 seconds of no heals, and I'd take like 4 shots and die. It's just like, what the hell were you doing? Anyway, okay, refocusing questions. And actually, just to follow up on a point earlier as well, like watching VOD reviews back, especially as Reinhardt players, is a very good idea. And the amount of times, like, because I get sent so many, people usually include the comment in the description of, when watching it back, I realized so many things went wrong. Like, it's so universal that you watch these back and it's just like, oh, wait, I can actually see what I'm doing wrong, but I still want the opinion. So it's just a very, very good idea to do. Do you think the Blizzard needs to...
most important hero to do it on. And Nana as well.
Yeah. Do you think the Blizzard needs to make another tank that fulfills the roles that Reinhardt does as an alternative? I feel like there's just no alternatives to him if he is in a team. So
they're aware.
Yeah, they're aware of it, but also like having like Rundfart, who's Reinhardt 2.0, who basically does exactly the same thing. Like, what does that actually add to the game other than just like arbitrary diversity? So I think there's a danger of just like, it's like adding Fido Baker instead of Widowmaker, who's basically a sniper who can reposition well, can one-shot people with headshots, and has some kind of warning system. It's not adding more to the game. So I am fine with Reinhardt being like the main tank, because that's his role, and the game just needs one of those. You don't need like 4 or 5 or 6 of those doing things in pretty much the same way, because then you run into the League of Legends problem where they like when they were releasing a hero every 2 weeks, you ended up with like 1,000 versions of Xin Zhao, where you just ended up with like a million tanky bruisers that all played exactly the same way because they had no idea how the fuck to design heroes aside from very specific guidelines. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of like arbitrary diversity. I'd rather see more interesting things, more diverse heroes, more niche heroes fulfilling different roles, doing different things. If they can do that while providing like an alternative to Reinhardt, then sure, like I'd love it. I'm never going to be against that, but like, if they release Rundfart and he's just exactly the same with slight differences, I'd be kind of pissed. Envy got purely outplayed on Team Comp, I'll definitely take a look at it.
It's good.
When pushing through tight chokes like Hanamura, is it better to hold and let your team burn down their barrier, get a pick, get aggressive, and push through quickly? Like, getting a pick is when you reassess. So what you should be doing is, by default, you should be thinking, barrier war, barrier war, barrier war, barrier war. Oh shit, their main DPS just died. Okay, what can we capitalize on the back of that? If the answer is, oh, they still have a Mei, so I can't just rush forward, then maybe their main DPS dying is just a sign that, okay, their soldiers down, let's just finish off their barrier, because they won't be able to keep up with our DPS anymore. And so you're making decisions based on, like, changing information. At least that's how I think of it.
Yeah. Some maps you can do it really well on. Hollywood is a really good map where you could just push right into their phase, and lots of people don't like King's Row as well. People don't like being on the defense and around out. Just
say Numbani as well.
Yeah,
Numbani's
all the hybrid
one.
Maps basically. Apart from Mike and Vol, because that choke is too tough.
And actually,
if they have a Symmetra and a Mei, you need to be clever, but that's not really your job to bait those out. If you're the one that gets baited, then somebody else has fucked up.
Let me
but
do
also,
this.
You shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Quick drawing. Okay.
You have to be aware of so many cooldowns as Reinhardt.
Rock here, and there's like a balcony here, and the point. The point's back here, so this is the point. It's not the greatest draw in the world. So the thing with Hanamura, the reason why you can't just brute force him with Hanamura is because the enemy team has so much space to just pull back. And because the choke is so wide, the area is so wide, that once you're pushed through, you are then just stood in like a courtyard. And you're kind of surrounded on all sides. And the enemy team doesn't have to engage you. The reason why you can do it on Numbani is because the enemy team like holds right in front of the fucking choke. And so you're just like smashing right into them. And you are literally inside the enemy team. They have very small area to sort of play around in and move around in unless they start dropping down, in which case you take the high ground, so you establish an advantage there. It's kind of the same with Hollywood, is the area you're actually pushing through with the choke is a very small area, and that then opens up as you go further and further back. The difference with Hanamura is that it's such a huge area that once you push through, you're stood here, and then you're kind of going, oh shit, I'm sort of stood in a big courtyard. They have people up here, they have people who've run back to the point, they have people up here shooting down at you, and now suddenly you're getting attacked from 3 directions. So on a point like Hanamura, you definitely want to be looking for picks and opportunities where like 1 or 2 DPS have gone down, or you've just killed their Reinhardt in the choke. Then you can start thinking about pushing in. Hanamura is very all or nothing, like it's very kind of all in. While with Numbani, you can sort of brute force your way in, have a bit of a clusterfuck fight on the top, and then you can emerge victorious, probably, maybe, depending on how the fight goes.
Pretty much. It's awkward.
Yeah, it's like we said before, Reinhardt is very experience-based. You will know situations of when, like, okay, this hero has died, therefore I can push in. But if you try and push in and they still have a Mei alive, for example, then it's kind of like, oh shit, maybe I can't just push in.
This is why people don't like Hanamura, because of that first choke. It's probably the hardest choke out of Volskara and Anubis. You have more options to use there.
Yeah.
Eikidvold is the same as Hanamura. It's
just a big open space that you're pushing into. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when you start pushing in, they fall back in 1 or 2 directions. And
defending these maps as well, you just need to learn how to fold in on yourself. That you are basically, if you're defended on Hanamura and the right side of your shield is attached to that doorway, fold in on yourself. So your shield's still up, but you're sort of pulling it back as if you're the door to that choke and you're just opening it ajar.
So what it means, pulling
it right behind.
If this is the choke, and you're, let's say you've decided to plug into this wall, your barrier's in this wall. Is there a better color for this? Yeah, I'm just doing blue. You pull into this wall, and then you just pull back like this, and anyone on your team can fall back into this room, or you can pull back this way, and then you can push to the higher ground. And honestly, say like going this way is probably better. Anyway, just because you get more space to play with, you're not going to get caught in a corridor where the enemy Reinhardt comes around and charges you. So yeah, I'd say that's the better option.
Use
flavors
the angles as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say use the angles as well, so you can mostly protect your own body from being flame struck. But also as well, this is a really bad habit that I've had. Stand the fuck still.
Yes.
If you keep constantly moving around, the DPS behind you are getting fractions of seconds without protection. I get that people don't want to stand still because they're easy tanks to get hooked or whatever. But Reinhardt has a 2000 shield in his way. If there are people flanking around you and sleep down on you or hooking you from a side, again, that's somebody else's responsibility. You've just got to face forward.
Yeah, like the amount, like, and if you're playing as like the Widowmaker, for example, people do this in a pattern. Like they'll just do like 1 second left, 1 second right, 1 second left, and you just get used to the pattern. And then you just put the crosshair on like the Anna that stood still behind the Reinhardt because she thinks, oh, I'm completely safe here because there's a Reinhardt in front of me. And you just keep the crosshair on them. The amount of times I've done this on Widow is insane. And you just wait for the Reinhardt to drop his barrier for a split second, then just fire and kill. You've pre-aimed because you know where the target is, and then Reinhardt just fidgets and moves, or their head just pokes right over the barrier, and you just get the kill. Don't fidget. Just don't. There's no reason to. There's no benefit to it, unless there's threats behind you, maybe.
It's a jittery thing, and you got to be aware. Like, I still do it, and I don't realise, mostly at the end of maps. But it is just...
Just get used to standing. Park yourself. Remember, you are the wall. You are the unstoppable... You are the immovable object, and then when you charge, you are the unstoppable force.
But also make the use out of corners and chokes, because they are infinite shields.
Exactly, they're infinite barriers.
Yeah.
Ice cream, etc. Yeah, what flavor? Haven't we done this with Reinhardt before?
Possibly. I think a really strong toffee.
Yeah, like a big chunky toffee with some beer poured into it as well.
Yeah, tarry.
Just like it sits really heavy in your stomach. It's really fucking nice as well. And it's really sweet as well, because Reinhardt is a sweetheart. What protein do you support? In terms of supporting, I'm now positive on NRG because my friend Nomlocked is on the team. I've always liked Reunited or E-United, as they are now. Like, always been a big fan of Reunited. I like Fnatic as well. I like the Fnatic roster. So I'm like, I got to know Vonathil as well, who's a really cool dude. So yeah, like I'd say those 3 teams mostly. But I'm not like a huge fanboy. Like I like watching good games of Overwatch. So I like watching Envious, for example. Lunatic High. Can you and Ryan have a Reinhardt 1 versus 1? What would be the point? I don't think we'd learn anything from doing it. It'd just be a case of who can, like, Reinhardt duels. I'll just like you grind into each other, holding down the left mouse button, maybe charge each other, maybe fire strike each other. It's not a good duel.
It's good for practicing counter charges as well.
Maybe. Is it ever worth switching off Reinhardt if your team are not using the barrier, or is it just worth using for the ability to protect from enemy Reinhardt's ulting? I would say it is worth swapping off if you've got a team that's like Genji, Tracer, fucking Lucio, and Anna, and like all of them are just 3 miles away from each other, and you're not protecting anything, then why are you there? You might as well pick Winston and be a more mobile thing, or pick Zarya and provide bubbles around. Like, your team won't be in a position to ever be Earthshadowed because you're already so scattered. So they're mostly going to Earthshadow one person, which isn't worth bringing a Reinhardt for. So, no, don't stay on Reinhardt if Reinhardt's not a great pick. The reason why Reinhardt's such a good pick is most people run Reinhardt on defense, and then you just end up trading with each other. And if you're trading one side has a Reinhardt, one side doesn't, you win because you have 2,000 extra hit points that the enemy team doesn't, basically. How do you practice charges? We covered that one already. Suggestions for playing with a Reinhardt that isn't communicating with the team. Communicate with him. So make sure that he's in the voice channel and listening. If he is just charging off willy-nilly, then use him as bait. Because what happens is...
Play Zarya, yeah.
Is this, where like your team is the pink blob, the enemy team is the yellow blob, and the Reinhardt is the blue, and Reinhardt charges in, and ends up going like through their team more often than not. And then they all pull in to turn around and face the Reinhardt. I hope you're watching these expert fucking drawings. I love this program, by the way. And then your team can just sort of push in and capitalize off the back of that while they're all distracted over here. Sometimes that can work. It's always a bad thing if the Reinhardt just isn't communicating or isn't playing with the team or is playing like he thinks he's Genji with a Dragon Blade. Because
He's
that's
most likely tilted.
Yeah.
As well.
And so it's sad days. You just got to communicate with him. So, and don't be afraid to say like, okay, Ryan, hold on for a second. We're all behind you. Just advance forward slowly. And then he might have a better idea of, oh, hey, there is actually a team behind me. Because remember, Reinhardts can't see fucking behind them.
Yep.
So if
we
they
don't have rear view mirrors.
And don't be afraid to say to Reinhardt as well, Reinhardt, mate, you're advancing off on your own. Because that happens. You start advancing forward, you think everyone's behind you, and then you just look and Reinhardt's like a senile old man who's sort of gone off for a walk and never stopped, and he's in his bathrobe and slippers, surrounded by hooligans, which is the enemy team. And you just go, oh no, that poor old man. And you could have stopped this. You could have just told him, wait, hold on a second. Not everyone's here, and now everyone's coming up. Okay. What flavor ice cream is Jeff Kaplan? The most delicious kind. That's Jeff. Do you think Reinhardt will be easily hard countered by the new Bastion and thus fall out of the meta? So the second question, no. I don't think he will ever fall out of the meta. I think if you are running Bastion and not running a Reinhardt, you are fucking up. I think that it just makes Reinhardt more careful and puts him on the back foot more, but Bastion needs Reinhardt in front of him to be effective if he wants to ever use turret form. And if you're not going to use turret form, you might as well play Soldier. So you need the Reinhardt, basically. It just makes it harder for him to tank as much. But we need to see it as well. Like, that's speculation on my part. Do you see it as a problem that you need Reinhardt in almost every game? Nope. Not any more than you need to have one of two healers. Well, you need to have two healers, 2 or 4 healers. Take your pick.
The game is still very, very young.
And there are comps you play without Reinhardt, so there are options to play without. I don't see it as a big issue. Like, this isn't like a MOBA with a roster of like 200 characters in it. You know, and there's not much overlap between the characters available. So having like the times where there are overlaps, you have choices to make strategic decisions. Do we bring Tracer or Genji? Well, it's the high ground. Do we have Nano Boost? Do we have Graviton Surge? How do we combine these ultimates? How do we combine our team synergy? With Reinhardt, there isn't any overlap anywhere, and so you just bring Reinhardt to have the tankiness. And unless you artificially induce the overlap, which I don't think is needed, then it's okay. Charging people off a cliff, when is it worth it? EGN nanoed enemy. Nanoed enemy is one of the very few. Like a nano boosted Genji, for example, would be a good idea. When your spawn is closer than theirs and trading is positive, when your barrier is dead and theirs isn't, so let's say that your barrier is just smashed down, they still have like 2,000, you charge them, you take them off a cliff with you, perfectly good trade. You've just done 2,500 hit points of damage, like A+. Otherwise, it's like an instance of like, when is it worth to trade your life? And in general, the answer is when your barrier is down, then you're looking to get an assassination, basically. You're looking to pick one target and kill it. Because you're not going to get your barrier back in the fight, usually. Does that work for you, Ryan?
Yeah, looks good for me. Sorry, I got stuff where... Because there was a lot of stuff with Maker Studios, because they had layoffs, so I'm getting far on that. Yeah. Where are we in questions?
Renegade. I can only play Ryan when I have a friend to assist me with heals. Any tips for Ryan sustaining in solo queue when you can't actually trust in the people at your back enough to be able to do your job? The thing with Reinhardts and healing Reinhardts is be patient. Like, there are times when Reinhardts are on like 100 hit points and then wondering why I'm not prioritizing them for healing when they have a 2,000 hit point barrier in front of them. And as Anna, I'm just sat there thinking, well, I'll probably put a dart or two in you just to make sure that you can't be one-shot by someone rolling past your shield. But after that, I'm fucking doing triage on someone else. Be patient.
Like a trust fall.
Yeah, just be patient, stand there with your barrier up, and then when the barrier starts going down, then you can start saying, start mashing the I need healing button, because you might need a bit of a pickup. If you do need to go and pick up some health, then just go pick up some health. Don't stand there with no hit points. Like, if you tell people, yeah, I'm on 20 hit points and not getting healed, so I'm just going to grab the health pack, you'll find the healers start paying attention. Because then when you run away, everyone dies, and it's like, well, I was dead if I stood there, and I was dead if I didn't. So occasionally, you're going to have to just look after yourself. Use the payload. Like, don't be afraid to just stand on the payload if you're low on health and just slowly heal up. It's not ideal, but you're usually gaining ground while you're moving the payload, so hey, it's a good idea to use that. Maximize use of that. I think in grass, because I'm a scientist, damn straight. From Moon, if I remember correctly, to let the shield down so you take damage, and then it should heal you and the shield lasts longer. Yes, it's a...
Run over that, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of an
Probably
advanced
this way
strategy.
out, yeah. Yeah, again, look out for hooks, anti-heal, sleep darts.
Understand that whenever you're doing that, you are taking a huge risk. Because if you drop the shield for no reason and then a hook lands or something goes through or Widowmaker shoots someone, that's your fault. You're basically, when you are dropping the shield and absorbing spam, you are trying to force an advantage by building a nano boost faster or building a Sombra ult faster, for example, with EMP. You just take some damage, you back off. And honestly, it is better if you have like a Roadhog or something, or a Diva, let them advance in front of your shield, take the damage, and then advance back, because then they are only risking themselves. That said, if you have, and also remember that whenever you're taking poke, you're also giving ult charge to the enemy team, so it does kind of balance itself out a little bit in terms of them building up ultimate charge. But you usually get yours first because it's all going on to the Anna, for example, rather than going over 6 different heroes. You can do it, and you can try and do it. Just make sure that there is no instant death trap waiting for you, like a Roadhog, like a Widowmaker, like anything that could just blow someone up. And be very careful when doing it. Be very aware of the hit points of your allies, because if they drop low and you drop your barrier and they die, again, that is your fucking fault, and you're being greedy, and you shouldn't be.
Be aware of your timings as well, because with bunny hopping, especially, if you sort of get into a routine, it's like hop, move, move, hop, move, move, hop. As soon as you hop, it's very easy to telegraph a hook or a sleep dart. You've got to... It's the same with strafing left and right. If you're just going left and then right and then left and then right, it's very easy to sort of see the pattern there, right? So you want to make sure that you go left, left, right, left, left, right, right, left, right. So you're constantly shifting around. You're not just doing this repeat pattern over and over again, because that is very easy to, again, telegraph and to earth shatter if they're hopping around. It's the same with somebody coming around the corner. You know how much time that they're trying to save. That if you know that they're going to hop around the corner, this is especially important when you hear a Lucio ult and you know that they're going to charge straight in. It's like, well, this is easy, bang. The thing about getting Earth Shatter off and making sure that you bait the enemy's Earth Shatter is you have to pretend, I suppose, that you're... A good example is if I get nano boosted and there's a Reinhardt right in front of me, running at him and using the whole melee cancellation trick, as if, oh, I'm going to hit you right in the face, I'm nano boosted, and then putting up the shield, there's a strong chance that he's just going to panic ult you, because that's what you should be using your ult for, really. So I think that's my main advice for baiting Reinhardt ults. It's an incredibly risky thing to do, but you don't learn from not risking. And again, like, you say if you lose that aspect of it, you fuck up. Like I do on countless occasions when playing against sort of getting Earth Shattered, the team lose and we lose the game. That's one game out of 80 hours I played of Season 3. It's a drop in the ocean, is what I mean. So playing Reinhardt and fucking up constantly is okay, but if you keep fucking up and you're like, that wasn't my fault that we lost, then you might as well have been playing Torbjorn and standing in front of people, because you've got nothing out of that game. Yeah.
Very simple question. Darth Betazoa, what do you use to draw on the screen? It's a program called Epic Pen, and it's free. It's very nice, so that's what I use. It's pretty easy to use, actually. It's quite a nice program.
I usually yourself.
I usually flick the barrier down to avoid getting hit by a flame strike. To avoid that bit of damage, is that a good idea or risky in case the enemy gets a pick? It's a bit risky, I'd say. Like 100 damage isn't going to make or break it, and you can usually just find somewhere safe to regenerate anyway.
Yeah. Try not to be stood in places where it's an easy... Like, again, use the side of cover. Big Earl's sign is a good example, standing right on the corner of that sign. So if they try and flame strike you, it's going to hit the sign in front of you. If it goes for your shield, then it goes for your shield. It doesn't do anything. The McCree and the soldier, whatever behind you, can move out of the way. If they don't, they're an idiot, but that's fine.
Because that's on them.
But you also need to pay attention with how much they're landing as well, because you need to know when they have their ult. If you're playing against a Reinhardt and you're like, I don't know whether they have their ult or not, you need to pay attention.
Yep.
Because you need to play around that.
We've kind of already answered this. As a Reinhardt shield, should you be strafing? No. You'll be holding as still as possible, unless you need to readjust position, and you want to do that in a single smooth motion so you're predictable. What happens when a movable object meets an unstoppable force? Physicians cry. I think that's about it. I was looking at your old videos and you talk about IDDQD as a team. When did that happen, and is there a story to it? IDDQD as a team turned into Envious, basically. And they are still the core of the Envy roster, so not too much has changed. Yeah, that's basically what happened to that. IDDQD, the player, was never on IDDQD, the team, thank God, although it was very confusing when IDDQD played IDDQD, as you can imagine. Let's see. Arrows and shields falling down could do damage. Sure that's what that's referring to. I'm just closing up now, I think, because we've been doing questions for a while. The Doomfist gauntlet missing and the attack on Numbani Airport, will this all culminate in an attempt to steal our Overwatch ice creams? I imagine so. Actually, Roadhog's more the ice cream thief, so we probably don't have to worry too much. Should you fire strike the enemy team as they advance towards you, or does it just give the enemy support ult charge? No, it's not. Like, fire striking, the way to think about fire striking is it is a resource. Yes, I did mean physicists, not physicians. Physicians also cry as well, I imagine. Fire strike is a way of gaining ultimate charge. It's very rarely a way to kill things. So you shouldn't be thinking of it in terms of, oh, I'm going to fire strike and kill things. That said, if they're already advancing towards you, if they start the fight and everyone just like crams through a choke point and they all take a fire strike, they're probably going to lose the fight because they're like the supports are on 100 hit points, the DPS is on 100 hit points. You've just done a shitload of damage. That's actually quite a good contribution. But if you're just fire striking while trading and while there's not actually engagement happening, that's when there could be danger. And so when you have our shadow ready, don't just fire strike willy-nilly, like on every cooldown. Look for opportunities. Don't stop fire striking completely because you are signaling that I'm just turtling up and I have an Earth Shatter. But just like be careful and don't just spam it willy-nilly. Basically,
don't do it in front of a Reinhardt when you think that he has Earth Shatter as well. It's really easy to go. He's flame strike and bang. Yeah. I do that too much. That's certainly one of my biggest critiques of. It's kind of like Roadhog's a good example of this at the moment. I've always said, you want to use the hook liberally, ignore the hook accuracy. You want to use it constantly on cooldown. 8 seconds makes it a little bit more. You can't just constantly use it. You shouldn't be constantly using it anyway. You've got to make the most out of it however you can. And it's the same with flame strikes as well. If you're a fair distance away, then try and get a pick, but don't just flame strike for the sake of flame striking. It's just such little damage. You might get a pick off, sure, but you risk so much. You risk far too much by doing this.
Yeah, exactly. I'm being terribly rude right now, so I'm got distracting myself by drawing things on the screen. We're on a starfish. There we go. Starfish. There we go. I think that actually about wraps it up for us here now. Nice combo with the Reinhardt. Anything that just cleans stuff up in general. Honestly, you don't need that many things to usually combo with it. It just sort of combos with itself quite nicely. But yeah, that's about... God.
Oh, actually, about the ults in that game as well, beeline the supports every single time. It's certainly
your team can usually...
Like, you kind of went over this anyway with sort of the angles of Earth Shatter, but even if you just catch the Mercy with the one right before the end of the point and you missed the soldier,
the soldier, yeah, that would have been perfectly fine.
Like if you it's a fair trade to ult to kill important targets at clutch moments. You know, you're at the end of the map, Mercy dead was enough to sort of push off of it. But also, if you have it and there's not really much to do and they have an Ana, save your ult. If you can shatter a Nano Genji, Nano Genji, a Nano Visor, that's 2 ults to trade for your 1. Even if they get up and kill somebody afterwards, like, that's fine. You shut down a team killing ult. and that's how you should be doing. But if you miss, that's also fine. Just don't breathe and then strike. Don't just go, oh shit, bang. Because you have a tendency to maybe fuck that up, especially if there's a Zarya on the team and she shields them.
Yes. Although I will say that, it's not always the case that you want to nail the supports. If you can hit all 5 of the team, although the exception is Mercy, like if it's Mercy and 5 of the team, then still hitting 5 of the team is probably worth it. Yeah. Just because the Mercy's going to res, but your team will re-engage perfectly fine.
Mercy or Ana. If the Ana dies, then, it's put the head off the snake.
I wouldn't, like, if you could hit 5 of the team or an Ana, hit 5 of the team, because Ana can't heal them. You can body block the Ana's healing, for example, and just kill everything. The Ana on her own isn't going to be able to pick everyone back up, isn't going to be able to stop the damage. I'd say just go for the team, but it's case by case. But in general, if you can catch the supports, it's worth doing. But if the support is too far away, but you can catch their entire team, it's also worth doing. Like, it's just case by case. But if you can catch like a support and a DPS, and it's risky, like the example in this game where they were both like right on the edge of the Earthshatter, focus it more on the Mercy. The Soldier's not going to kill you before you kill the Mercy, and the Mercy's gone. We'd already called out, and especially in this case, we'd already called out that she probably has res, so she is priority 1. If you just get 2 targets, get rid of the Mercy as fast as you can. Then let everyone else go with it. Zeta's apparently asked a question, is pointing up. Might be too late. You're pointing, like, I'm scrolling, and I'm not seeing it. I'm sure it's in there somewhere. I
think it's similar to Zarya, like, it's easy to ult. The follow-up is the tricky part. What you do after your ult. It's the same as sort of being nano-boosted as a Reinhardt. What you then decide to do next is detrimental.
Oh, you mean the... I was trying to puzzle out what Zeta was meaning by pointing up, and he actually just pointing to the quote of "hammer this chick to death," which, yes. But yeah, we've been running for a long time now. I'm sure this Q&A section's already run for like 40 minutes, so... Yeah, that's gonna be it. I'm sure no one's actually made it to the end of this, but if you have, congratulations, well done. Your prize is in the mail. No, it isn't. But if you do want to send stuff into Coaching the Many, the link is on the screen at the moment. It's oamreviews@gmail.com. Include the hero name and the rank in the title. Include a little description, and make sure you include the YouTube link. Just because this happens sometimes where people will send it in and say, yeah, I had this really great game that I think will be amazing to coach, and it was brilliant, and it was incredible. It was the craziest game you've ever seen, and there's just no link. And I don't bother to reply to people on the OAM reviews count because I'm lazy and I'm mean and I'm asocial. But yeah, that's about it. Hopefully it was useful. Hopefully it was of some use. Do feel free to come by and join us on Twitch. It's a better show live than on YouTube, not going to lie, because the chat makes like half the show as valuable as it is. So yeah, do feel free to come by 10 p.m. GMT on Fridays and Saturdays. Could be you. Could be your fucking clip. I mean, it was Hammers today and he had a good time. He's a sub. Happy to do it. Otherwise, that's it from us. Toodles.
Bye-bye.
And there we go.